Hello everyone, and welcome to Horror Talks with Tate, and welcome back to Tate's Nightmare Collection. For today, I'm going to be talking to you about a story that I created, and it's the second installment of Tate's Nightmare Collection. As you guys know, the second anthology horror series of Horror Talks with Tate. So, for this episode, we are going to be talking about a camping horror story that is inspired by a recovery camp that I once attended for my disability. And when I was going to that camp, I've had a feeling about doing a camping horror story, and this recovery camp that I went to gave me an idea to do something like this. And the story is titled Rehab of Shadows. Now, this story follows a young boy named Daniel who was attended to a camp to recover until he soon realizes that this camp was not what he expected. He keeps hearing strange noises at night, feeling like the forest is haunted, and he soon tries to find the mystery of what's behind this camp. So, without further ado, let's get right into the story of Rehab of Shadows, and I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 1. Arrival at Shadow Pines. Daniel squints through the fog-covered windshield as the rickety shuttle bus wends its way deeper into the woods, its headlights cutting weakly through the mist like dying candles. The road narrows, swallowed by ancient trees whose skeletal branches claw against the glass as if trying to drag the vehicle into the darkness. Each bump and turn makes the old bus groan in protest, the sound echoing like a wounded animal through the emptiness. Shadow Pines Rehabilitation Camp finally emerges from the gloom, a scattered collection of rustic cabins half consumed by the forest. They sit crooked and uneven, as if the earth itself is trying to reclaim them. Behind them, an oppressive wall of towering pine looms, their silhouettes merging with the perpetually overcast sky. The air feels heavy here, almost alive, thick with the sense of wet barks and decay. When the bus hisses it to a stop, Daniel steps out into the damp air and is immediately met by Dr. Lal, the camp's director. Dressed too neatly for the wilderness, Dr. Lal's eerie calmness sends a chill down Daniel's spine. His smile doesn't quite touch his eyes. Cold, glassy things that study Daniel with a detached curiosity of a scientist observing a trapped specimen. Every word from his lips is perfectly measured, deliberate, and far more smooth. Something about his voice feels rehearsed, as if he's spoken this exact greeting many times before, to people who never left. The camp itself feels wrong. The tree seems to lean inwards, bending unnaturally towards the cabins as though listening. The branches reach upwards, trembling, but never quite touching the grey sky. The staff members move with quiet precision, silent, unblinking figures who watch Daniel with the faintest hint of anticipation. Even the other patients seem hollow, their eyes dull, their movements slow and mechanical. They don't speak. They barely look at him. They simply exist, drifting through the campgrounds like ghosts. Daniel is assigned to Cabin 7, the small structure isolated from the rest. As he steps inside, the wooden floorboard creaks under his weight, grunting like something waking from sleep. The air is colder here, still, yet heavy, with a faint of smell of mildew and something metallic underneath. He pauses in the doorway, feeling it immediately, a presence. The unsettling, suffocating sensation that he is not alone. The shadows seem to breathe. At night, sleep refuses to come. The wind outside howls through the cracks of the cabin, and the trees tap against the window like skeletal fingers. Every creak of the wood makes Daniel's pulse quickening. Just as he begins to drift towards uneasy rest, a faint whisper slithered through the air, soft, drawn out, unmistakably calling his name. Daniel. The sound comes from just beyond the window, and when he looks, the fog outside seems to shift, like something was standing in it, watching, waiting. Chapter 2: The Silent Ones. Daniel wakes to the sound of footsteps outside his cabin. Slow, deliberate, and in perfect rhythm, like a funeral march. The wind has died, and in the thick silence that follows, a crunch of pine needles underfoot is deafening. He sits up, his breath clouding in the cold air, and peers through the fogged window pane. Out there, moving through the pale mist, is a group of people. They walk in single file towards the forest's edge, each step synchronized, each head bowed. Their faces are blank, drained with emotion, and their eyes reflect nothing, not even the moonlight. Daniel recognizes a few of them from around the camp. Patients, staff, people who were there during dinner, now moving as if in a trance. These are the Silent Ones. He heard the name whispered in passing, always hushed, always followed by a quick chance of subject. Whenever he asks who they are, the staff go rigid. Conversations die. The air itself seems to tighten. Even Dr. Love gives a rehearsed smile and says only, they're part of a special program. Jason, the man from the neighborhood in cabin, breaks the silence one morning as they share weak coffee by the fire pit. His eyes flicker constantly towards the woods, and his hands tremble slightly as he speaks. Don't ask about them, Daniel. Just don't. They're the ones who couldn't handle it. When Daniel presses him, Jason only shakes his hands and muttered, some things here aren't meant to be cured. Later, during group therapy, Daniel begins to notice something unsettling about the camp's resistance. They speak in dull, faint tones, their gazes unfocused. When they laugh, it sounds forced, mechanical, like the echo of a memory rather than a genuine reaction. Zoe, a young woman with severe burn scars tracing down her neck, stares blankly at the floor as she talks. I haven't dreamed since I got here. Not once. It's like they took that from me. Jason, sitting beside her, lets out a strange chuckle before admitting, my dreams never stopped. If anything, they got worse. I keep seeing them. The Silent Ones. They stand in the woods, waiting, and I'm always there with them. The room goes silent. Even Dr. Lyle's faint smile flutters for a fraction of a second before returning, sharper than before. Days blur together. Therapy sessions, long walks through the fog, tasteless meals in the dining hall, all feels like part of a strange routine meant to dull his mind. Yet Daniel can't ignore the wrongness festering beneath the surface. At night, the whispers return, threatening through the darkness around his cabin. Sometimes they call his name, other times they just laugh, softly, mockily, from somewhere deep within the woods. The shadows along his walls move when there's no light source to cast them. He tries to convince himself it's fatigue, paranoia, withdrawal from the outside world, but deep down, he knows better. Each night, he hears them. The same footsteps, the same quiet position disappearing into the pines, the silent ones. And with every passing hour, Daniel feels the pulling growing stronger. A voice deep within him urges him to follow, to see what they see, to understand. But something else, something primal and terrified, keeps him frozen in bed, clutching the thin blanket like a lifeline, because he knows that if he steps outside, he might not come back the same. Chapter 3. Whispers of the Past. Maya finds Daniel during one of the afternoon therapy session, slipping quietly into the empty chair beside him. Her presence is almost ghost-like, shoulders hunched, eyes darting to the corners of the room as though expecting to see something lurking there. Her green eyes catch the light, vivid yet haunted, and for a moment, Daniel wonders if she's been crying. When Dr. Lal leaves the group momentarily to fetch a file, Maya leans closer. Her voice trembles as she whispers, just as loud enough for Daniel to hear. You feel it too, don't you? The air here, it's wrong. Daniel studies her, unsure how to respond. Before he can speak, she continues, her words spilling out in nervous urgency. Shadow Pines wasn't always a rehab camp. They say this place used to belong to a cult, the Unravel. They worshipped something buried in these woods. When the police raided the site decades ago, they found dozens of bodies burned and buried in the root of the trees. The camp was built right on top of it. Daniel frowns, half expecting her to smirk and admit she's joking. But Maya's expression is deadly serious. They try to hide what happened, but you can still feel it. The spirits of the ones they sacrificed, they never left. They're trapped between the worlds. I hear them at night, whispering something. I think they're calling for help. Her words lingered in Daniel's mind long after the session ends. He tries to shake it off, tells himself it's just another patient paranoia, a symptom of trauma, not truth. But when night comes, sleep brings no confront. He dreams of the wood. The fog parts, revealing towering trees that seem older than time. Their barks scarred with strange runes that pulse faintly like veins of fire. In the heart of the forest burns a massive bonfire, its flames twisting in unnatural shape, spitting sparks that form brief faces before fading into the darkness. Around it, hooded figures chant in a guttural language that rattles the air, the rims seeping into his bones. Daniel can't move. His body feels pinned to the forest floor. One of the hooded figures turned towards him, the firelight catching on its face, or what should be a face. Instead, he sees only a void, a swirling mass of smoke and shadow, and within it, faint outlines of screaming mouths. The chanting stops. Silence. And then the shadow figure steps closer. A voice echoes inside his head. Join us. Daniel joins awake, gasping, drenched in sweat. The room is dark, but the faint glow of the moon cuts through the blinds. His wrists burn. When he lifts them, he freezes. Two faint red marks encircles his skin, like the bruising of hands that had held him down. The next day, everything feels different. The staff seem to watch him more closely now, their gaze lingering too long. Conversations hush when he walks into a room. Maya avoids eye contact at breakfast, her face pale, her hands trembling as she stirs her coffee. Dr. Lal calls him in for a private session. His office is small, sterile, and faintly metallic. The smell of disinfectant heavy in the air. You've been having trouble sleeping, Daniel. That's understandable. But I hear you've also been talking about things that aren't helpful for your recovery. Daniel shifts uncomfortably in his chair. You mean Maya's story? About what this place used to be? Dr. Lal's smile returns, thin, patient, and hollow. There are no stories here, only treatment. I strongly suggest you focus on that, rather than delving into dangerous fantasies. The word sounds polite, but the tone carries weight, an unspoken threat. As Daniel leaves, he catches his reflection in the glass door. For a moment, the reflection doesn't move with him. That night, he lies awake, listening to the forest breathe. The whispers are louder now, more urgent, threading through the cracks of his cabin wall. And though he tells himself they're only dreams, a single terrifying thought roots itself deep in his mind. What if the cold never really left? What if they're still here, waiting? Chapter 4, The Haunting of Cabin 7. Daniel's night in Cabin 7 grows colder, unnatural so. The thin heater hums uselessly, its lights flickering as the temperature plummets. The air feels dense, heavy with something unseen, and the shadow in the corner seems to breathe when he isn't looking. Each night, the darkness grows bolder. It begins with small whispers, barely audible murmurs that echo through the wood. Then, one evening, as Daniel drifts between waking and sleep, he feels it. A cold, unmistakable touch grazing the back of his neck. He jerks upright, heart pounding, eyes darted across the dim cabin. Nothing. Just a faint rattle of the window against the frame and the soft swaying of the curtain. Then the wind picks up. The window shudders violently. the glass flexing as if something outside is trying to get in. The sound isn't just wind. It's deliberate, rhythmic, like fingernails dragging against the pan. Daniel stumbles to the light switch, flooding the cabin with a pale yellow glow. The shadow retreats for now, pressed flat against the wall. But he doesn't feel alone. Not really. From that night on, he sleeps with every light on. Lamps, overhead bulbs, even his phone flashlight propped on the bedside table. Yet, no matter how bright the room, the darkness always finds a corner to hide in. A few days later, during breakfast, Jason catches him staring blankly at the cafeteria wall, eyes sunken, hand trembling. He leans in, voice low. "You're in cabin 7, right?" Daniel nods. "Figures. You know, someone died in there a few years back. Staff called it a drug overdose, but that's not what really happened." Daniel's stomach tightens. "Then what?" Jason glanced around, making sure no one else is listening. He said the shadows wouldn't leave him alone. Kept talking about figures in the dark. Said they whispered to him. The next morning, they found him dead. Eyes open wide. Blood frozen in his veins. Jason's fork clatters against the plate. They never cleaned that room right, man. You can feel it. That night, Daniel lies awake, watching the ceiling fan spin lazily above him. Just as he begins to drift off, a faint scratching starts within the walls. It's slow at first, like small animal, and then grows louder, heavier, and deliberate. Something is inside the walls, pacing and waiting. He grips the sheets, every muscle in his body tense. Then, through half-lit eyes, he sees it. A figure standing at the foot of his bed. Its outline is fake, humanoid, but distorted. As though the darkness itself has taken shape. The air thickens. He can't breathe. The figure doesn't move, doesn't speak. It only watches. The weight of its gaze pins him in place until exhaustion finally drags him into uneasy sleep. By morning, he convinced himself it was a hallucination. Sleep deprivation, stress. The mind playing tricks, but deep down, he knows it was real. Determined to uncover the truth, Daniel spends his afternoon in the camp's small library. It's shelf-coated in dust and filled with outdated therapy manuals and old camp records. He digs through brittle yellow pages until something catches his eyes. An old logbook bound in cracked leather. Most entries are mundane notes on arrivals, staff schedules, supply lists. But near the back, one stands out. Resident Ethan Cotter, Cabin 7. Behavior increasingly erratic. Complaintive voice. Shadows, figures in the dark. Claims something is watching him from inside the walls. Final note. Ethan claims the shadows had come for him. No one believed him until it was too late. Daniel's blood runs cold. He stares at the page, his reflection flickering faintly in the glass of the library window. Behind him, something moves, just out of sight. Chapter 5. The Shadows Take Form. The shadows at Shadow Pines had begun to change. They no longer behave as tricks of light or tricks of the mind. They move with purpose. During the day, they stretch unnaturally long enough the dirt paths and cabin walls, bending against the sun's direction as if mocking its warmth. At night, they pull ticks and black in the corners, pulsing faintly like living veins beneath the floorboards. By the fifth night, Daniel can't ignore the feeling anymore. The whispers are no longer whispers. They're calling. The forest looms beyond his window, the moonlight slicing through the fog in narrow beams. Something in his chest tugs, an invisible tread drawing him out. Against every instinct screaming for him to stay inside, he slipped on his jacket, opens a door, and steps into the cold. The air outside feels wrong. The trees sway though there's no wind, and the fog moves as if it's breathing. Ahead, faint psychotic moved between the trunks, slow, steady, imperfect rim. The silent ones. Daniel follows at a distance, his feet crunching on damp pine needles. The procession moves deeper into the forest, past the point where the air grows colder and the moonlight dims to a sickly grey. He hears faint chanters now, a low hum that rises and falls like a beating of a great unseen heart. Then the forest opens into a clearing. The silent ones stand in a wide circle beneath the pale light of the moon. Their faces are blank, their skin ashen, their eyes hollow mirrors. For a moment, Daniel thinks they are simply standing still, until the shadows beneath them begin to move. The darkness stretches upwards, detaching from their feet, writhing like black smoke. The shadows twist into the air, elongating, contorting, taking on distorted shapes, limbs where they should be none, mouths where faces should be. The silent ones sway, their bodies jerking in unison as the shadows peel free from them completely, hovering in the moonlight like living stains. Daniel's breath catches in his throat. He wants to run, but his legs refuses to move. His mind reels as he realizes the awful truth. These people are empty husks. Their souls, their humanity, all of it has been devoured by whatever ancient force binds this land. The shadows begin to turn, slowly, purposefully, towards him. A low, inhuman sound fills the clearing, a chorus of whispering voices overlapping in 1,000 tones. Daniel stumbles backwards, his pulse pounding so hard it echoes in his ears. He takes one step, then another, crunch, crunch, and that's when the nearest shadow reacts. It slides across the ground like liquid, fast and silent. Tendrils stretching towards his feet. Daniel bolts, tearing through the underbrush. Branches whip against his arm and face as he runs. The forest twisting in disorienting patterns around him. He doesn't know where he's going, only that he has to get away. Behind him, a chanting resumes. louder now, rising into a frenzy. The forest seems alive with movement. The shadows darting between trees, chasing him without sound or breath. He bursts through the tree lines, gasping, stumbling towards the faint glow of the cabins. When he dares to look back, he freezes. At the edge of the forest, under the pale moonlight, dozens of figures stand in perfect stillness. The silent ones. The shadows ripple at their feet like black fire. And though their faces remain expressionless, Daniel can feel it. An unseen gaze locking onto him, heavy and cold as death itself. The forest falls silent again. Only his ragged breathing fills the night. Somewhere deep into the darkness, a voice, familiar, calm, and chilling, whispers through the trees. You've seen too much, Daniel. Chapter 6. Maya's Warning. Maya's health begins to deteriorate rapidly. Her skin glows pale, her eyes sunken with exhaustion, and her voice trembles whenever she speaks. She tells Daniel that something inside the camp is feeding on her, draining her energy, her hope, her very soul. It's not the food, or the air, or even the water. It's something far darker. The camp, she says, is alive. It breathes, it listens, and it's feeding off her fears and trauma, using them as sustenance. Through tears, Maya admits that every night, just past midnight, she sees her deceased brother, the one who drowned when they were children. He stands at the edge of the woods, soaked and motionless, his eyes fixed on her with silent accusation. At first, she thought it was a dream, a hallucination brought on by grief. But the more she sees him, the more real he becomes. His wet footprints leading closer into the cabin door each night. She convinced in Daniel that she believes the camp itself manifests the deepest, most personal fear of its residents, twisting their pain into haunting visions. One by one, it breaks them, body, mind, and spirit, until there's nothing left but the empty shell that wanders the ground at night. The silent ones. Daniel is horrified by her confession, yet he can't deny the truth in her words. His own fear has started to claw their way into reality. The shadows in his camp move when he is not looking. They press against the window, long, spindling hands reaching towards the light, trying to steep inside. The air hums with whispers that knows his name. Maya grows desperate. She insists that they must leave, now, before the camp consumes them completely. But every attempt to escape ends in failure. Trees collapse across the only road out, as if guided by unseen hands. The shuttle meant to take them back to town mysteriously breaks down, its engine smoking and dead. And whenever they try to run, the staff appear from nowhere. Their smiles too wide, their eyes empty, murmuring the same chilling reverence. You're not ready to leave yet. Daniel feels the walls closing in. The camp is no longer just a place. It's a predator. And they are running out of time. Chapter 7. The Dark Ritual. Daniel and Maya stumbles upon an ancient underground chamber hidden beneath the campgrounds, a place long forgotten, buried under descent of dirt, roots, and silence. Air inside is thick and damp, heavy with a sense of rot and rusted metal. The flashlight flickers as if resisting the darkness itself. The chamber walls are lined with strange relics and carved symbols, the same ones Maya has seen in her visions and nightmares. Candles long burnt out sit in iron holders, melted wax cascading down like frozen tears. In the center of the room rests a massive stone altar, its surface marred with dark, dried stains that time could never wash away. The shapes etched into the altar seems to shift under the beam of their light. Faces, hands, and twisted forms locked in perpetual agony. On a nearby shelf, they find dusty boxes labeled Camp Recovery Archive Confidential. Inside are journals, photographs, and a set of old VHS tapes marked with patient numbers. Daniel powers on a small dusted-covered TV left in the corner, and together they watch the first tape flicker to life. The recordings show patients, pale, frightened, and trembling, describing the same visions Daniel and Maya have endured. They speak of shadows that whisper their names, of cold hands reaching from the dark, of dream that bleed into reality. As the tape progresses, the testimonies grow more frantic, more hopeless. The final tape ends mid-scream, a woman's voice pleading for help, before dissolving into static that hits through the speakers like a dying breath. The silence that follows is suffocating. As they shift through the remaining documents, a horrifying truth begins to emerge. The camp's founder, Dr. Lal, and his staff aren't healers. They're devotes of an ancient cult, one that worships a shadowborn entity dwelling beneath the land. Every patient who arrives at the camp is nothing more than a vessel. Their fear and suffering harvest to feed its monstrous being. Maya's hand shakes as she reads a passage from an old ledger, an entry written in Dr. Lal's hand. Through pain, we awaken the dark. Through fear, we sustain it. Daniel's heart sinks. Everything makes sense now. The nightmares, the hallucination, the endless cycle of despair. The silent ones are not patients recovering from trauma. They are a remnant of those who surrendered to it. Their souls, drained and hollow, now serve the entity that rules the camp. Maya clutches Daniel's arm, her voice trembling. It's still feeding Daniel, and it knows we found it. The light flickers. Somewhere deep in the chamber, something stirs. Chapter 8. The Ghost of Shadow Pine. That night, Daniel is joined awake by a cold breath against his ear. The air in his cabin feels heavy, dense, as if soaked with invisible warmth. He can only see his own breath in the darkness. Then slowly, figures begin to emerge from the shadows. The ghosts of former patients drift into view, pale, translucent forms that flicker like dying candlelight. Their eyes are hollow, glowing faintly with a soulful light. They don't move with footsteps, but glide across the room in silence, their presence filling every corner with dread. When they finally speak, their voices overlap, whispered layered upon whispers, carrying pain, regret, and warnings. We were like you once. The camp promised to heal us. It took everything instead. Their words bleed with a gush. They tell Daniel stories of their torment, how Shadow Pines preyed on their broken minds, twisting their fears into living nightmares. Every scream, every tear, every panic attack was harvest, energy for the shadow that lives beneath the soul. One by one, their hope was drained until only hollow shells remained. Now they are trapped, echoes of the suffering that once was. Some spirits reach out, their fingers pulsing through Daniel's skin like icy mist. Help us, one sobbed. End it. Others, their voices trembling with fear, whispered desperate warnings. Leave this place, Daniel, before it takes you too. Their faces shift, flickering between human and monstrous, as if their entity still claws at their souls even in death. Then, one spirit, a young man with a burn mark across his face, steps forward. His voice is clear, calm, resolute. The ritual. It's happening soon. In the woods. The altar you found. That's where it ends. You and the girl. You're to be the next offerings. Your fear will feed it for another cycle. Daniel's pulse races. The room seems to close in. The shadows lengthening, stretching towards him. He can feel the entity pressing against the walls, watching. The ghosts continue, revealing a flicker of hope through the despair. They speak of an ancient way to break the curse, to sever the connection between the camp and the shadow. The key lies in the destruction of the altar at the heart of the wood. Only then can the spirits be freed and the entity starved. But as the ghosts fade, their forms glitching in and out of sight, Daniel feels their fear surge one last time. It knows we've told you, a voice whispers. It's coming. The temperature plummets. The cabin lights burst into static white. And in the reflection of the window, Daniel sees movement. Dark, skeletal hands reaching from the walls, clawing towards him, scraping across the glass. The shadows are no longer content to haunt. They want him next. Chapter 5. The Final Night. The night of the final ritual arrives. The woods are deathly silent. Not even the wind dares to whisper. The moon is hidden behind a shroud of black clouds, and the air hums with a low, unnatural vibration, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. Daniel and Maya are dragged from their cabin by Dr. Lal and the camp staff, their wrists bound with coarse ropes that cut into their skin. The staff's faces are blank, their eyes glazed and hollow, puppets of the entity they serve. Torchlight flickers against their lifeless smiles as they march deeper into the woods, following a narrow trail that winds follow the heart of Shadow Pines. The altar awaits them, carved from obsidian stone and surrounded by circles of ancient symbols, each into the dirt. Around it, the shadow rings like living smoke, twisting into inhuman shapes. They dance along the trees. Their movements synchronize with the rhythmic chanting of the cult. The air grows colder with every breath. Daniel and Maya are forced to their knees before the altar. The air reeks of burnt incense and decay. Dr. Lyle steps forward, dressed in ceremonial robes marked with the same singles that cover the chamber walls. His voice is calm, almost gentle, a fatherly tone masking the madness beneath. "You were chosen," he says, his words echoing through the woods. "Your pain feeds the dark. Your fear sustains its life." As the chanting grows louder, the shadows begin to rise, their forms solidifying into monstrous silhouettes. Eyes, countless and glimmering, open across their smoky bodies. The tree seems to bend towards them, the branches reaching down like claws. Brown and powerless, Daniel feels the cold seep into his bones. Maya cries out as the darkness calls around her, whispering her brother's voice, mocking her grief. Dr. Lyles raised a dagger edged with runes that pulse in time with the entity's heartbeat. And then, in the midst of chaos, something clicks inside Daniel. A sudden clarity cuts through the noise. He realizes what the ghost has been trying to tell him. The shadows are drawn to weakness. They feed on fear, despair, guilt. But fear is not their weapon. It's their tender. If he confronts it, truly faces it, the power breaks. Daniel closes his eyes. The world around him fades, replaced by the sound of his own heartbeat. He feels the weight of every trauma, every nightmare, every loss. He sees his failures, his regret, his darkest memories. For the first time, he doesn't run from them. He accepts them. When he opens his eyes, the shadow hesitates, their forms flickering like smoke in the wind. The chanting falters. Dr. Lyle's expression twists from control to confusion. Maya, seeing Daniel's defiance, begins to fight the voices clawing at her mind. She whispers her brother's name, not in fear, but in forgiveness. The shadows recall. The forest trembles. For the first time, the entity's power begins to falter. Chapter 10, Breaking the Shadows. The ritual reaches its fever pitch. Dr. Lyles stands before the altar, his arms raised to the sky as he chants in an ancient glottal language. Each word drifts with melons reverberating through the woods like thunder. The sound is joined by the unearthly howls of the shadows, swirling violently around the clearing like a living storm. Daniel and Maya trance against the ropes that bind them to the cold stone altar. The air is heavy and suffocating. Every breath burns like frost in their lungs. The shadows circle closer, their forms twisting into grotesque shapes, faces stretching from darkness, eyes like hollow moons. A crushing weight presses against their minds, whispering temptation in 100 voices. Give in, the entity hissed through them. You cannot fight what you are. Daniel's vision blurs, his strength waning as the black tide encroaches. But through the chaos, he remembers the words of the ghost, the truth they died to pass on. The shadows are drawn to weakness, but repelled by those who confront their fears. He closes his eyes, forcing himself to face the horrors that have haunted him since arriving at Shadow Pines. The faceless figure lurking at the foot of his bed, the endless dark of Cabin 7, the unbearable guilt of his own failure. The memories slam into him like waves, but this time he doesn't run. He screams into the void, a raw, primal sound, defying the darkness that ceased to claim him. The air shudders. For a heartbeat, the shadow falters, their forms flickering like dying embers. Fight them, Daniel shouts, his voice breaking through the roar of the storm. Maya lifts her hands, trembling but defiant. The visions of her drowned brother materialize before her, dripping, pale, eyes empty of life. For so long, she had believed his death was her fault. But now, as the entity twists his memory into a weapon, she refused to let it. She steps forward, her voice shaking but strong. You're not real, she whispers, tears cutting through the dirt of her cheeks. You can't hurt me anymore. The apparition lets out a wail, a sound of grief and rage, before dissolving into mist. The hesitation spread like a ripple through the horde of shadows. They waver, their shrink turning to frantic screams as the tide begins to turn against them. Daniel tears at his rope, his wrist bleeding as he finally breaks free. He grabs a jagged stone from the ground and cuts Maya loose. Around them, the earth trembles, the altar cracking under their feet as veins of white light snakes across its surface. Destroy it, Maya screams, pointing towards the heart of the altar. Daniel lunged for a burning torch clutched by one of the cultists, wrestling it free. Without hesitation, he drives into the center of the altar. A blinding light erupts, pure, searing energy exploding outwards like a shockwave. The shadows shrieked in agony, their forms twisting and unraveling as they're ripped apart by a force. A sound of defending, a death cry of something ancient. Dr. Lowell stuttered backwards, shielding his eyes, disbelief and fury etched across his face. This isn't over, he growls, his voice echoing like thunder. And then, as the light consumes the clearing, he vanishes into the forest, his silhouette melting into the darkness like smoke. The remaining shadows collapse, their bodies liquefying into pools of black ichor that seeps into the ground, leaving behind only silence and runes. The earth beneath the altar splits open, releasing one final hiss, a sign, almost human, before falling still. The camp staff, once puppet of the entity, collapse to their knees, their eyes clear, their faces a mixture of confusion and horror. Some weep, others simply stare into the trees, as if waking from a nightmare they can't remember. Maya grips Daniel's arm, trembling, her breath ratchet. "It's over," she whispers. But as the first light of dawn breaks through the trees, Daniel looks towards the forest, and for a fleeting second, he swears he sees a figure watching from the shadows. Dr. Lyle's echoes in his mind. This isn't over. The forest falls silent again. Shadow Pines still breathes. Epilogue. Light beyond the pines. The sun rises for the first time in what feels like an eternity, spilling golden light through the trees of Shadow Pines. The air, once thick with dread and decay, now feels crisp and alive. The oppressive silence that had choked the camp is gone, replaced by a soft rustle of leaves and the distinct calls of morning birds. Daniel and Maya stand side by side, battered and exhausted, but breathing, truly breathing, for the first time in days. The warmth of the sunlight feels foreign against their skin, almost unreal after so much darkness. As they make their way back towards the camp, the remnant of the night's horror fades behind them. The once empty cabins now stirred with life. Other patients, who has been under the entity's influence, begin to awaken. Their eyes blink opens slowly, confusion and fear giving way to fragile relief. The silent ones stand among them, no longer ghostly wanderers, but lost souls blinking into awareness. Their humanity returns in faint flickers. A tear, a shuddering breath, a whisper of a name once forgotten. For the first time in years, Shadow Pines is quiet, peacefully quiet. Daniel and Maya packed what little they have left. The cabin looked different now, smaller, less menacing, stripped of their power. Still, the weight of memory clings to every wall, every floorboard. They exchange a look, one of unspoken agreements. It's time to leave. As they approach the main gate, they stop. Beyond the tree lines, faint figures shimmered in the morning haze. The ghosts of the camp's victims. Dozens of them stand in silence, their expressions soft, no longer twisted in anguish. One by one, they smile, faint, grateful smile, before dissolving into the light. Their torment finally at rest. Maya wipes a tear from her cheek. "They're free," she whispers. At the edge of the road, an old ranger's truck waits, dust settling around its tires. The driver, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, steps out, his expression bewildered. "Got reports for strange lights and screams out here last night," he says cautiously. "You folks alright?" Daniel and Maya exchange a wary glance. "We are now," Daniel replies. Without looking back, they climbed into the truck. The engine rumbles to life, breaking the stillness as the vehicle begins its slow crawl down the winding dirt road. For a while, neither of them speaks. The forest rolls by, peaceful and bright, as if the nightmare had never happened, but the silence between them carries a weight of everything they've seen, everything they've survived. Daniel turns to Maya, his voice quiet but heavy. "Do you think it's really over?" Maya gazes out the window, the trees blurring past. "I don't know," she said softly. But whatever it was, we beat it. Daniel nods, though his eyes drift into the rearview mirror. For a brief moment, just before the forest disappears from sight, he sees a figure standing at the edge of the trees. Dr. Lal. His face is calm. His eyes burn with that same unholy light. A reminder that some evil don't die. They wait. And then just like that, the trees close in. The forest swallows the camp whole. Shadow Pines is gone, or perhaps merely sleeping. Well, everyone, that was Rehab of Shadows. I hope you guys really enjoyed this story. It was a lot of hard work. It took me almost a year to create this. I think it was over a year to make this. So yeah, I've been so happy to finally get this for you guys. So guys, this is today's video. Thank you so much for listening to this story, and I'm so happy that you guys are loving it, and I cannot wait to do more stories for you guys. So make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified for any future videos coming very soon. So thanks again for watching. This is Tate Ines from Horror Talks with Tate. Stay spooky, and I'll see you in the next episode.